Hello, my amazing friends. Today I want you to listen carefully, because what I am about to share is more than just a story. It is a journey that will touch your heart, inspire your dreams, and even change the way you think and feel about learning English. This is the story of a boy who was not rich, not powerful, not even expected to be remembered. And yet, he became one of the most famous names in history. His words shaped the English language itself. His stories made people laugh, cry, and dream for more than 400 years. But this is not only his story, it is also your story. Because just like him, you have dreams. You have challenges. You have doubts. And you also have the power to rise above them. So, as you listen, don't only think about Shakespeare. Think about yourself, your voice, your potential, your future. Let this story remind you that even an ordinary person can achieve extraordinary things. And as you follow his journey, you will also strengthen your English, one word at a time. Are you ready? Then let us begin. The beginning of a legend. It was a cold April day in the year 1564. In a small English town called Stratford-upon-Avon, a baby boy was born. The town was quiet, with narrow streets, wooden houses, and a gentle river flowing through it. No one in that little town could have imagined that this baby would grow up to change the world. His name was William Shakespeare. William's father, John Shakespeare, was a hard-working man. He was a glove maker who created fine leather gloves and sold them in the town market. People respected him because he worked with his hands, creating something useful and beautiful at the same time. John was not a rich man, but he had ambition and he wanted to give his family a good life. William's mother, Mary Arden, came from a farming family. She was strong, kind, and loving. She filled the home with warmth and care for her children. She had deep roots in the countryside, where fields stretched wide and nature was everywhere. From her, William learned to love the beauty of the natural world. William was the third of 8 children, and the house was always full of noise, children playing, laughing, and sometimes fighting. Life was busy, but young William was different from the rest. He was curious. He watched everything around him carefully. He listened to the way people spoke, the way they laughed, and the way they cried. Even as a little boy, he wanted to understand the world and the people in it. In those days, there were no televisions, no phones, no internet. People found joy in simple things, stories, songs, and plays. Sometimes traveling actors came to town and performed in the streets. The young boy, William, would stand among the crowd, his eyes wide with excitement. He was fascinated by the magic of storytelling. He listened to old legends, folk tales, and stories of heroes from long ago. Each story fed his imagination, making it stronger and brighter. When William turned 7, he started going to school. The school was a small, simple building. It had wooden benches and a strict teacher. The lessons were not easy, but William enjoyed learning. He studied reading, writing, history, and poetry. But the most important subject was Latin. Latin was the language of scholars, of history, and of great ideas. At first, it was difficult for William, but soon he became good at it. He read the works of ancient writers like Ovid, Plutarch, and Virgil. Their stories about love, war, ambition, and fate filled his mind. These words stayed with him for life and later inspired his plays. William was not just a student of books, he was also a student of life. He loved walking through the fields, watching the river flow, and listening to the songs of birds. Nature spoke to him in a language of its own. He played games with his friends, ran through the streets, and enjoyed the simple joys of childhood. But deep inside, there was something unusual about him. He had a hunger for words, a love for stories, and a desire to find meaning in everything he saw. In the evenings, when the day's work was done, his family would gather around the fire. Sometimes his father told stories from the Bible or old English tales. Sometimes his mother shared legends she had heard in her youth. William listened closely, storing every word in his heart. For him, stories were not just entertainment, they were windows into the soul. Even as a child, William began to experiment with words. He made up little rhymes and poems. He tried to act out small plays with his friends. He enjoyed pretending to be kings, warriors, or lovers, and he made people laugh with his imagination. No one in Stratford knew that this playful boy would one day write the most famous plays in the world. To them, he was just William, the curious child with a big imagination. But already, the seeds of greatness were being planted. His father's hard work showed him the value of persistence. His mother's love taught him compassion and warmth. His school opened the doors to the wisdom of ancient times. The stories of traveling actors gave him dreams of performance and drama, and his own restless curiosity made him look at life with wonder. In the small town of Stratford-upon-Avon, a legend was quietly beginning. When we look at William Shakespeare's childhood, we see that he was not born into privilege. He did not have a castle or a golden crown. He had a simple home, a hard-working father, a loving mother, and a community of ordinary people. Yet, from these simple beginnings came something extraordinary, and that is the lesson for all of us. You don't need to be born rich or powerful to leave your mark on the world. You only need curiosity, imagination, and the courage to dream. William's journey reminds us that greatness often starts in the most unexpected places. So, as we continue his story, remember this: William Shakespeare was once a little boy in a small town, just like you and me. He listened, he observed, he learned, and one day he used those simple beginnings to create something timeless. His childhood was not just the start of his life, it was the beginning of a legend. Struggles of youth. As William grew older, life in Stratford-upon-Avon began to change. His childhood had been filled with curiosity, learning, and joyful play. But now he started to see the harder side of life. His father, John Shakespeare, who had once been a respected glove-maker and businessman, began to face serious financial problems. At first, the family lived in comfort. John had money, influence, and even held important positions in the town. But slowly, everything began to fall apart. His business lost profit, debts began to grow, and he could not repay the money he had borrowed. Neighbors whispered about the Shakespeare family. The respect that John once enjoyed was slipping away. For young William, this was a difficult lesson. He saw the worry in his father's eyes. He heard the quiet conversations between his parents late at night, voices heavy with concern. He felt the tension in the house when there was not enough money for food or clothing. He realized, perhaps earlier than most children, that life was uncertain and could change quickly. But instead of becoming bitter, William became more observant. He began to study the emotions of the people around him, the frustration of his father, the quiet strength of his mother, the chatter of townsfolk, the laughter of children who played outside without a care. Every feeling, every expression stayed in his mind. Later, these observations would come alive in his plays. His characters would cry, laugh, love, and despair with a depth so real that audiences centuries later would still feel their pain and joy. It was during these difficult years that William also discovered his own creativity. Even when the family struggled, he found comfort in words. He began to write little rhymes, turning simple moments into playful verses. He made jokes in clever ways, entertaining his friends with quick wit. Sometimes he and his companions would act out short plays in the streets, pretending to be kings, queens, or warriors. His imagination gave him an escape from the hardships at home. In school, William's love for learning never faded, even though money was tight. He continued to read Latin texts and absorb the wisdom of ancient authors. But he was not just copying words, he was learning how to think, how to express emotions, and how to use language as a tool of power. He began to sense that words could shape the way people see the world. Words could comfort, inspire, and even change lives. The struggles at home gave William something else: resilience. Many boys in his position might have given up on their dreams, but William did not. He realized that pain could be turned into art. He saw that sadness could be transformed into poetry, that laughter could rise even in dark times, and that imagination could build a world far greater than the one he lived in. One evening, when the family's money troubles were especially heavy, William sat by the fire with his younger siblings. To distract them from their worries, he began telling them a story. He acted out characters with funny voices, made dramatic faces, and turned the room into a small stage. Soon the children were laughing, his mother was smiling, and even his father's tired expression softened. At that moment, William discovered the magic of performance. He realized that stories could bring light even into the darkest times. This creativity was not only a talent, it was a survival skill. Whenever life grew hard, William turned to words. Whenever he felt hopeless, he created. Whenever he saw pain, he transformed it into something meaningful. This habit, formed in his youth, would carry him through the rest of his life. The people of Stratford began to notice William's gift. Friends admired his clever jokes and quick thinking. Teachers recognized his talent for language. Townsfolk saw how he could turn an ordinary story into something unforgettable. Yet no one truly understood how far this boy's imagination would take him. For William, the struggles of youth were more than just challenges. They were lessons. From his father's fall in fortune, he learned that wealth and status are never permanent. From his mother's strength, he learned the importance of love and resilience. From hardship, he learned that the human heart is fragile, but also powerful. These lessons would later become the foundation of his greatest plays, where kings would fall, lovers would suffer, and fools would speak the deepest truths. Looking back, we can see that William's difficult youth was not the end of his story. It was the beginning. Without those struggles, he might never have developed the empathy that made his characters so human. Without that hardship, he might never have understood how to touch the hearts of audiences. His pain became his gift, and his challenges became his strength. And so, in the small town of Stratford, in a home filled with both love and worry, a young boy was slowly preparing for greatness. He was not rich, he was not powerful, but he had imagination, resilience, and a heart full of stories. This is the lesson for us all. Your struggles do not have to break you. They can shape you, strengthen you, and give you the wisdom to create something greater. William Shakespeare's youth was full of hardship, but it gave him the power to see life as it truly is, full of joy and sorrow, love and loss, laughter and tears. And from those experiences, he would one day create masterpieces that still live today. Love and responsibility. At just 18 years old, William Shakespeare's life took a new turn. While many boys his age were still finding their place in the world, William made a choice that would bring both joy and responsibility. He married Anne Hathaway, a woman 8 years older than him. Some said it was unusual, but love does not always follow the rules of society. For William, Anne was not just a partner, she was a source of comfort, stability, and warmth in a world that often felt uncertain. Only months after their marriage, Anne gave birth to their first child, a daughter named Susanna. William was barely more than a boy himself, but now he held the title of father. Imagine him, still full of dreams and uncertainty, now cradling a tiny baby in his arms. His heart must have swelled with both love and fear. Love for the new life he helped bring into the world, and fear of the heavy responsibility that rested on his young shoulders. By the time he was 21, William and Anne had 3 children, Susanna, and then twins, Hamnet and Judith. The small cottage in Stratford that once echoed with quiet now rang with the cries and laughter of children. William's life was no longer about just himself. It was about the family that depended on him. Every day he was reminded that he was not only a dreamer, but also a husband and a father. But love and responsibility came with challenges. Money was always short. His father's financial troubles meant there was no fortune to inherit, no comfortable safety net. Work was hard to find in Stratford, and William had little to offer in terms of land, wealth, or connections. The burden of providing for his family weighed heavily on him. He must have walked through the streets of Stratford, wondering how he would put food on the table, how he would clothe his children, how he would give them a better future. And yet, even in these difficult times, William carried something that no one could take away: his imagination. He might not have gold in his pockets, but he had treasures in his mind. He had the ability to create worlds out of words, to see kings and fools and lovers in his thoughts, and to bring them to life with his pen. In a society that valued wealth and status, William's greatest wealth was invisible to others, but he knew it was real. Often, he would sit by the fire late at night while his family slept, writing small verses and practicing lines of poetry. Anne, though older and more practical, supported him in her quiet way. She saw the spark in him, even when the world did not. She managed the home, raised the children, and gave William space to nurture his dreams. It was not always easy, but love held them together. These years of marriage and fatherhood taught William lessons no school could offer. From Anne, he learned patience and partnership. From his children, he learned the innocence of laughter and the fragility of life. From his struggles, he learned determination. Every cry of a hungry child, every worry about tomorrow, pushed him to think bigger, to aim higher. Responsibility was no longer a burden. It was a fire that fueled his ambition. Shakespeare began to understand something important. While he had no wealth of land or money, he had the wealth of words. He realized that language could become his tool, his weapon, and his gift to the world. With words, he could capture the beauty and pain of life. With words, he could create stories that people would never forget. And perhaps, just perhaps, those words could also become the path to supporting his family. We must remember, William was not yet the great playwright of London. At this stage, he was simply a young man with a wife, 3 children, and a desperate need to find his place in the world. His future was uncertain, his responsibilities heavy, but his heart was full of determination. He was beginning to see that his imagination could change not only his own life, but also the lives of those around him. The story of these years is not only about love and family, it is about the balance between dreams and duty. Shakespeare could have chosen to give up on writing, to live a simple life in Stratford, working odd jobs to survive. But deep inside, he knew his words were too powerful to remain silent. He loved his family too much to settle for less. He wanted to give them more than survival. He wanted to give them greatness. And so, William began preparing for a bigger stage, though he did not yet know where it would lead. The struggles of supporting a family did not crush his spirit. Instead, they shaped it. His love for Anne and the children gave him strength. His responsibility gave him focus, and his imagination gave him hope. Looking back, we can see that these early years of marriage and fatherhood were not a distraction from Shakespeare's destiny. They were the foundation of it. Without love, he would not have known the depth of emotion that fills his plays. Without responsibility, he would not have had the fire to push himself beyond his limits. Without struggle, he would not have discovered the power of words. This is the lesson for us. Love and responsibility can feel heavy, but they can also give us purpose. They remind us why we work, why we dream, and why we keep going even when life is hard. For William Shakespeare, love was not just romance, it was commitment. Responsibility was not just a weight, it was motivation. And together, they gave birth to the legend we remember today. The mysterious lost years. History is a strange thing. It gives us windows into the past, but sometimes those windows are foggy, leaving us to wonder what really happened. Between the years 1585 and 1592, William Shakespeare's life becomes one of those mysteries. He disappears from the records. No one wrote about him. No documents mention him. And we cannot say for certain where he was or what he was doing. These 7 years are known today as Shakespeare's lost years. Imagine it. A young man in his 20s, with a wife and 3 children in Stratford, suddenly stepping into silence. No books, no plays, no clear evidence of work. Just questions. What did he do? Where did he go? How did he transform from an unknown dreamer into the rising playwright who would soon appear in London? Historians and scholars have offered many theories. Some believe Shakespeare may have worked as a school teacher, using his knowledge of Latin and literature to earn money. Others say he could have joined a group of traveling performers, acting in small towns, learning the craft of theater by experience. There are even stories that he worked as a law clerk, or perhaps as an assistant in the countryside, helping wealthy families with their affairs. we will probably never know the full truth. But perhaps the truth is less important than the lesson hidden in the mystery. What matters is that these were not wasted years. Whatever William was doing, he was observing, learning, and growing. Think about it. These lost years were not really lost at all. They were a time of preparation. A seed must remain hidden underground before it grows into a tree. In the same way, Shakespeare's silence was the soil in which his greatness was growing. He was gathering experiences, listening to voices, watching human behavior, and sharpening his love for words. He may have stood in crowded taverns, hearing the laughter and quarrels of common people. He may have seen the struggles of farmers, the pride of landowners, the arrogance of noblemen. Every smile, every tear, every argument would later find its place in his plays. He had the eyes of a poet and the heart of a storyteller. Nothing escaped his notice. What's more, Shakespeare was likely testing himself during this time. Maybe he tried writing small plays for local groups. Maybe he acted on small wooden stages, learning how audiences react, where they laugh, when they cry, and what makes them silent with wonder. These years gave him a chance to fail quietly, to experiment without the world watching, to practice until he was ready for the bigger stage of London. And here is something powerful for us to remember. Sometimes, life gives us our own lost years. Maybe it is a period when progress feels slow, when no one notices your work, when the world seems silent about your efforts. It can feel discouraging, as if nothing is happening. But often, these quiet years are the most important. They are the years of preparation, the years that build the foundation for everything to come. For William, these hidden years were shaping his destiny. They taught him patience. They gave him courage. They prepared him for the storms of success and failure that lay ahead. When he finally appeared in London around 1592, he was not an untested boy anymore. He was ready. We can almost picture him during those years, walking alone on dusty roads, carrying only a small bag, his mind full of rhymes and stories, or sitting in a dimly lit inn, writing quick lines on scraps of paper while actors rehearsed nearby, or watching the faces of ordinary men and women, studying their emotions so deeply that one day he could put their very souls on the stage. His family in Stratford may have wondered where his ambition was leading him. Perhaps some even doubted him, whispering that William should forget his dreams and settle down into a safe, ordinary life. But inside, he carried a fire too strong to be put out. These were not wasted years. They were the making of a legend. And when we look back, we see the lesson clearly. Greatness often grows in silence. The world may not notice you yet. Your name may not appear in records. Your efforts may feel invisible. But that does not mean nothing is happening. Like Shakespeare, you may be in your own lost years, a time of growth, learning, and preparation. So, let his story encourage you. Do not fear the quiet seasons of your life. Do not believe they are wasted. One day you will step forward, stronger and wiser, and the world will finally see what has been growing inside you all along. When Shakespeare emerged from the shadows of those lost years, he carried with him a wealth of experiences, a heart full of stories, and a mind trained in observation. He was ready to take on London, ready to give the world words it would never forget. And that is the beauty of the mysterious lost years. They remind us that even when the world is silent, destiny is still working. Preparation is still happening, and the seeds of greatness are quietly growing beneath the surface. Arrival in London. The year was around 1592 when William Shakespeare's life changed forever. He left the quiet streets of Stratford and stepped into the heart of England's greatest city, London. Imagine it. The smell of smoke from 1,000 chimneys, the noise of horse carts on cobblestone streets, the cries of sellers in the markets, and above all, the heartbeat of the city, the theaters. London was alive with ambition. Everywhere, men and women were chasing success. Merchants sought fortune. Poets fought for fame. Actors dreamed of applause. The city was dangerous and dirty, but it was also full of possibility. And for William, who carried only his dreams and his gift for words, it was the perfect place to begin. At first, he did not arrive as a famous playwright. He came as a simple actor. The theaters of London were buzzing with performances, comedies, tragedies, histories, stories of kings and clowns. William joined this world quietly, learning the rhythms of the stage. He put on costumes, spoke lines, and acted before noisy crowds who sometimes cheered and sometimes threw rotten fruit if they were displeased. But William was not just memorizing lines. He was watching. He noticed what made people laugh, what made them gasp, what made them lean forward in silence. He studied the stage from the inside, understanding the heartbeat of the theater. And slowly, something began to grow inside him. The desire not only to perform plays, but to write them. In those days, theater was a fierce world. Playwrights were like warriors, fighting with words, competing for attention, and chasing the favor of noble patrons. They guarded their art jealously. To them, William was just a country boy, the son of a struggling glover from Stratford. He had no university education, no noble blood, no famous teachers. He was, to many, an outsider. And then, in 1592, one of those university men, Robert Greene, attacked him. Greene was an established playwright, proud of his education and position. In a pamphlet, he called Shakespeare an upstart crow, a bird dressed in borrowed feathers, pretending to be greater than he was. Greene sneered at the idea that a man without a degree could write plays that stood beside the works of scholars. For many, this insult might have crushed their spirit. Imagine working hard, stepping into a new world, only to be mocked as an outsider. But William did not answer with anger. He did not fight back with words of bitterness. Instead, he chose a different path. He answered with work. He wrote more. He wrote better. He poured his heart into his plays and poems. Every insult became fuel for his determination. Every doubt became a challenge he was eager to overcome. Instead of breaking him, Greene's words only sharpened his focus. And here is where Shakespeare's story speaks to us most powerfully. Because in life, we will all face moments when others doubt us. People may look at where we come from, what education we have, what accent we speak with, and they may say, "You don't belong. You're not good enough." And in those moments, we have a choice. We can believe them and give up. Or we can do what Shakespeare did, work harder, rise higher, and let success become the answer. William chose the second path. He continued acting, but now he was also writing plays that people could not ignore. His words were fresh, his characters alive, his stories filled with both humor and truth. Crowds began to notice. His name, once mocked, began to appear with respect. The upstart crow was spreading his wings, and soon he would soar higher than anyone expected. Picture him, in those early days in London, walking quickly through crowded streets, manuscripts tucked under his arm, rehearsing lines in his head as he passed noisy taverns and quiet churches. He was not rich yet. He was not famous yet. But he was building. Every day, every word, every performance was another step toward greatness. The road was not easy. London was full of plague, and theaters sometimes closed for months. Competition was fierce. But William did not let these struggles stop him. He kept writing, kept improving, kept dreaming. His secret was simple but powerful. He did not waste energy fighting critics. He used their doubt as motivation to create something unforgettable. And slowly the city began to turn. Audiences laughed at his comedies. They wept at his tragedies. They saw themselves in his characters: the jealous husband, the foolish servant, the proud king, the young lovers. Shakespeare's gift was not only that he could write, it was that he understood people. He gave their lives a voice, and the people loved him for it. Looking back, the insult of Robert Greene seems almost small compared to what followed. The upstart crow became the greatest playwright the world has ever known. But perhaps we should thank Greene, because his attack gave Shakespeare the fire to prove himself. Without that moment, maybe William would not have pushed so hard, worked so deeply, or risen so high. And so, the lesson for us is clear. When the world doubts you, do not waste time with anger. Do not fight with empty words. Instead, let your work, your growth, and your persistence speak for you. That is how you rise above criticism. That is how you turn insults into stepping stones. That is how you, like Shakespeare, transform doubt into destiny. The young man from Stratford had arrived in London as a simple actor, but through hard work, resilience, and unshakable faith in his gift, he was beginning to rise. The journey was only starting, but already the stage was waiting for his genius. Rising fame. The city of London was alive with energy, but it was also fragile. In the early 1590s, tragedy struck. The plague swept through the streets. People lived in fear as sickness spread, and the government ordered the theaters to close. Overnight, the heart of Shakespeare's new life, the stage, was silenced. No more crowded performances, no laughter from audiences, no chance for an ambitious young actor and writer to prove himself. For many, this was the end of their dreams. Actors were out of work, theaters stood empty, and uncertainty hung heavy in the air. But for William, the closure of the theaters did not mean the end. Instead, it became the beginning of something new. With the stage closed, he turned his attention to the page. If he could not write plays for the theater, he would write poetry for the people. And so, during this dark season, William Shakespeare poured his energy into words that would not be performed, but read. He wrote beautiful, rich poems, Venus and Adonis and The Rape of Lucrece. These works were not only admired by ordinary readers, but also caught the attention of noble patrons. His poetry found its way into the hands of the powerful and wealthy, including the young Earl of Southampton, who became his supporter. Suddenly, this son of a glove maker from Stratford was being noticed by England's elite. The poems were a success. They were bold, passionate, filled with beauty and meaning. People marveled at his imagination, his rhythm, his power with language. Shakespeare, once mocked as an upstart crow, was now respected as a poet of rare talent. For the first time in his life, he earned money not just to survive, but to begin building a reputation. Poetry had given him wealth, respect, and the confidence to push forward. When the theaters finally reopened, William returned to the stage with new fire. Now he was not just an actor struggling to find roles. He was a poet with a growing name, ready to bring his words to life before audiences. And what words they were! He began to write plays filled with everything that made life real: love, power, betrayal, ambition, laughter, tears, and dreams. His stories did not belong only to kings and queens, but also to ordinary people. Lovers whispered in gardens, fathers quarreled with daughters, fools made jokes that carried hidden wisdom. His characters lived and breathed, and audiences felt as though they were watching themselves on stage. In the mid to late 1590s, his plays began to shine like stars over London. Comedies like A Midsummer Night's Dream filled theaters with laughter and wonder. Histories like Richard III brought the struggles of kings to life. And then came Romeo and Juliet, a love story so powerful that even today it is known across the world. The tragic beauty of young love, the pain of families divided, the joy and sorrow of passion, all of this was given to the world by Shakespeare's pen. The people of London could not get enough. The theaters filled with men and women from every walk of life: merchants, workers, nobles, even royalty. They came because Shakespeare's words spoke to them all. His plays were not distant or cold. They were alive, vibrant, and true. Each performance was a mirror, showing people the beauty and flaws of their own hearts. By the end of the 1590s, William Shakespeare was no longer just another playwright in a crowded city. He was becoming a legend. His name was known across England. His works brought him wealth, respect, and, most importantly, influence. He was no longer the outsider mocked for his humble beginnings. He was one of England's most famous playwrights, and his journey was still only beginning. But what made him rise so quickly? It was not luck alone. It was his ability to turn hardship into opportunity. When the plague shut the theaters, he did not give up. He wrote poetry. When critics mocked him, he did not quit. He worked harder. When competition grew fierce, he did not hide. He created stories no one could ignore. And here lies the lesson for us. Life will always close doors in front of us. There will be times when plans fail, when opportunities vanish, when the world seems silent. But Shakespeare's story reminds us that even in those moments, we are not powerless. We can adapt, create, and find another way forward. Where others saw an ending, he saw a new beginning. That is why he rose. By the time the 16th century gave way to the 17th, William Shakespeare had built more than fame. He had built trust with his audience. People knew that if they walked into a theater showing his work, they would be moved, challenged, entertained, and inspired. His name meant excellence. His plays were not just entertainment, they were experiences. The glovemaker's son from Stratford had taken the stage of London and made it his own. From poverty to poetry, from insult to inspiration, from silence to thunderous applause, his rising fame was the proof that imagination, when joined with hard work and courage, can lift a person higher than they ever dreamed. And so, Shakespeare's star was rising, shining brighter with every play, every performance, every word. He had proven himself, not only to London, but to the world, yet even greater triumphs still waited ahead. The Globe Theatre, dreams become reality. In 1599, something extraordinary happened. William Shakespeare and his acting company, the Lord Chamberlain's men, decided to build their own theater, a place where their dreams could take full flight. They called it the Globe Theater, and it would become one of the most famous theaters in history. Imagine it, a massive circular building with an open roof that let the sunlight spill onto the wooden stage. Thousands of eager spectators crowded the yard and the galleries, their voices buzzing with excitement. This was more than a theater. It was a kingdom of imagination, and Shakespeare was its ruler. For William, the Globe was the fulfillment of a dream he had carried since childhood. From watching traveling actors perform in Stratford's streets to struggling in London's competitive theaters, he had always believed that stories could change hearts. And now, at last, he had a stage of his own, a place where his words could live and breathe exactly as he imagined them. The Globe became home to some of Shakespeare's greatest masterpieces. Here, audiences first experienced the tragedy of Hamlet, a story of revenge, madness, and deep reflection on life and death. They shivered at the ambition and guilt of Macbeth, a tale of power that corrupts even the strongest hearts. They wept at the jealousy and heartbreak of Othello, a story of love and betrayal that cut to the soul. And they gasped at the political intrigue of Julius Caesar, where loyalty and betrayal clashed in a drama that felt alive and urgent. But Shakespeare's genius was not only in the stories themselves, it was in the language. With every line, he shaped English in ways that would last forever. Phrases like, "All the world's a stage," "to be or not to be," and "a rose by any other name would smell as sweet," emerged from this period. His words were precise, poetic, and powerful. They had the ability to capture human emotion, thought, and imagination in ways no one had done before. And the people of London could feel it. They could hear themselves in his characters, see their own struggles reflected on the stage, and laugh, cry, and dream along with them. The Globe was more than a theater. It was a place of innovation, creativity, and influence. Shakespeare was not just writing plays. He was directing them, performing in them, and experimenting with ways to make them resonate with the audience. Every performance was a learning experience. He understood the human heart better than anyone else, and could craft scenes that made audiences think deeply about love, ambition, jealousy, and fate. And the rewards followed. By this time, Shakespeare was no longer the young man struggling to survive in London. He had become wealthy and influential. Owning shares in the Globe brought him income every time a play was performed. His published works were sold across England, adding another stream of revenue. Royalty and nobility admired him. The Queen herself had once been impressed by his poetry, and now his plays were performed for kings and courtiers. He had arrived at a level of respect and security that most playwrights could only dream of. Yet even with wealth and fame, Shakespeare did not stop creating. The Globe gave him freedom, a stage where he could explore bold ideas, test new forms of drama, and experiment with language. He could write tragedies that probed the depths of the human soul, histories that reminded audiences of their past, and comedies that celebrated life and laughter. Every new play was a challenge and an opportunity, and he embraced them all. For those learning English, this period of Shakespeare's life is deeply inspiring. He shows us that creativity, perseverance, and vision can turn dreams into reality. He was once a boy in a small town, fascinated by stories and words, unsure of his future. He had no money, no noble family, and no guarantee of success. And yet, through determination, observation, and unwavering passion, he built a theater that became a symbol of artistic achievement. The Globe was not only a place for entertainment, it was a tool for shaping culture. Shakespeare's plays influenced the way people spoke, the way they thought, and the way they understood themselves. He had the power to move hearts, spark ideas, and inspire generations. And it all began with a simple belief that words have power, that stories matter, and that imagination can change the world. Imagine standing in the audience at the Globe. You watch a scene unfold on the wooden stage. Hamlet contemplates life and death, Othello struggles with jealousy, or Macbeth faces the consequences of ambition. You feel the emotion, you understand the characters, and suddenly you see the world differently. This is the gift Shakespeare gave, not only to London, but to the entire world. And perhaps the most important lesson from this time is this: dreams require action. Shakespeare could have remained a small-town boy, acting in minor roles, unsure of his place. But he dared to step forward, to create something larger than himself. He built a theater, wrote plays that challenged and inspired, and through his hard work, his imagination became a force that shaped history. The Globe Theatre stands as a reminder that our dreams, no matter how big or impossible they may seem, can come true if we are willing to work, to take risks, and to believe in the power of our gifts. For William Shakespeare, the stage was more than wood and paint. It was the realization of a lifetime of hope, passion, and creativity. And as he stood on that stage, watching his words come to life, he must have felt something extraordinary, that his dreams, nurtured since childhood, were finally alive, and that he had the power to touch the hearts of every person who came to see them. Royal recognition. Life is full of change, and for William Shakespeare, one of the greatest changes came in 1603, when Queen Elizabeth I passed away. Her death marked the end of an era. Elizabeth had been a supporter of the arts and had admired Shakespeare's work, giving him encouragement and prestige. With her passing, many wondered what would happen to the theaters, the actors, and the playwrights who had flourished under her reign. London was uncertain. Would the new king, James I, care about plays and poetry? Would theaters be closed, leaving actors and writers without work? For many, this could have been a moment of fear and doubt. But for Shakespeare, it was an opportunity. He had already proven himself with his plays, his words, and his growing reputation. He did not wait for permission to be great. He simply continued to create, and the new king noticed. King James, I loved theater, and he loved Shakespeare. He saw in Shakespeare's works a reflection of human ambition, power, and emotion. Stories of kings, of loyalty and betrayal, spoke directly to him. The new monarch personally invited Shakespeare's acting company to perform for the royal court, a dream that few playwrights could ever imagine. Performing for the king and his courtiers was not just an honor, it was recognition that Shakespeare had reached the pinnacle of his profession. To mark this extraordinary moment, Shakespeare's company was given a new name: the King's Men. This was no small honor. It meant that they were the official acting company of the king himself, protected and supported by the royal court. It meant wealth, prestige, and influence. It meant that Shakespeare's words were no longer just entertaining the public. They were now performing for the most powerful people in England. Imagine how it must have felt for William, the boy from Stratford-upon-Avon, who had grown up in a modest home, whose father had struggled to make a living, who had faced ridicule and doubt in London. He was now recognized by the king himself. He had gone from uncertainty to royalty, from humble beginnings to the heart of power. It was a validation of his talent, his perseverance, and his unwavering belief in the power of words. This recognition also brought responsibility. Shakespeare now had an audience that demanded excellence, not just ordinary plays, but works that would impress kings and courtiers, that would be remembered and discussed long after the performance ended. He had to continue to create, innovate, and inspire. And he did. During this period, Shakespeare wrote some of his most famous and profound plays. Works like King Lear, Macbeth, and The Tempest explored human nature at its deepest. They questioned power, ambition, love, and justice. The themes were universal, yet they were performed on a stage that brought them alive, making audiences feel every triumph and tragedy as if it were their own. Shakespeare's fame now spread beyond London. His plays were published, read, and admired throughout England. His words were no longer confined to the stage. They were shaping language, thought, and culture. Expressions like, "All the world's a stage," and "The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars," became part of everyday speech. His influence reached far beyond what even he could have imagined. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about this period is not the fame or the wealth. It is the journey that brought him there. Shakespeare's life reminds us that recognition is not given. It is earned. It comes from years of dedication, observation, and courage. From the streets of Stratford to the theaters of London, from the criticism of rivals to the closure of theaters by plague, he faced obstacles and uncertainty at every turn. Yet he persisted. He worked harder. He believed in his talent even when others doubted him. For English learners and dreamers everywhere, this part of Shakespeare's story carries a powerful message. The world may not always notice your efforts right away. You may face criticism, setbacks, or fear of the unknown. But persistence, skill, and faith in yourself can turn those challenges into opportunities. Shakespeare's recognition by royalty did not happen overnight. It was the result of years of preparation, creativity, and unshakable belief in his vision. Now imagine standing in a royal court, watching Shakespeare's company perform. The courtiers sit in their finest attire, the king leans forward in his chair, and every word, every pause, every gesture holds weight. The audience is captivated, not just by the story, but by the power of language itself. William, once a small-town boy with nothing but dreams and words, has become a master of his craft, shaping minds and hearts alike. And in that recognition, there is inspiration for all of us. Shakespeare's life teaches that greatness is possible no matter where you begin. His journey from Stratford to the royal court reminds us that talent, dedication, and courage can transform a dream into reality. The king's men were not just actors, they were living proof that perseverance and vision can open doors that once seemed impossible. By the early 1600s, William Shakespeare had achieved what few could even imagine. He was wealthy, influential, and respected by the most powerful people in England. But even with all this success, he never stopped writing, never stopped exploring the human heart, and never stopped believing in the power of words. Shakespeare's royal recognition was more than an honor. It was a testament to a life of hard work, courage, and relentless creativity. And it is a lesson that echoes across centuries. No matter your beginnings, no matter the doubts or obstacles, if you nurture your talent and never give up, the world will notice. Masterpieces of wisdom. As William Shakespeare moved into the later years of his life, something remarkable happened. His work deepened. He had already achieved fame, wealth, and recognition from kings and audiences alike. He had seen the heights of success, the struggles of youth, and the challenges of life in London. And now, in the quiet moments between performances and travels, Shakespeare began to explore the deeper truths of humanity. This period gave birth to some of his most profound and enduring works: King Lear, Macbeth, and The Tempest. These plays were no longer just entertaining stories, they were reflections on life itself. Shakespeare had grown older, wiser, and more observant of the human heart. He had seen love, loss, betrayal, ambition, and forgiveness, not just in books or stories, but in his own life and in the lives of those around him, and he poured all of this into his writing. Take King Lear, for example. It is a story of a father, his children, and the tragic consequences of pride, misunderstanding, and betrayal. Shakespeare did not write it simply to entertain. He wrote it to explore the fragility of human relationships, the pain of growing old, and the complex nature of love. Audiences could see their own families, their own struggles, and even their own fears reflected on the stage. In King Lear, Shakespeare's understanding of human emotions reaches new heights. He shows us that life is not always fair, but there is power in wisdom and understanding. In Macbeth, Shakespeare delved into the dark side of ambition and power. Through the story of a man consumed by desire and guilt, he explored how unchecked ambition can destroy lives and relationships. Macbeth is not only a tale of kings and battles, it is a mirror to our own hearts, asking each of us to consider our choices and the consequences of our actions. Here, Shakespeare combines drama with philosophy, teaching lessons about morality, integrity, and the fragility of human nature. And then there is The Tempest, a story of magic, forgiveness, and renewal. In this play, Shakespeare shows the power of love, understanding, and reconciliation. Prospero, the central character, experiences betrayal, loss, and regret, yet he chooses wisdom and forgiveness over revenge. The Tempest is not just a story about magic on a mysterious island. It is a reflection of human growth, showing that we can rise above mistakes and embrace the chance to heal ourselves and others. During these years, Shakespeare's writing became more personal and reflective. He no longer needed to prove his talent. He had already achieved fame and wealth. Instead, his work became a way to explore life's mysteries, to understand the human condition, and to leave behind wisdom for generations to come. His words gained a depth and richness that resonated with audiences then and continue to resonate today. Shakespeare himself was changing. He had lived through success and failure, joy and grief, recognition and criticism. These experiences shaped his understanding of the world. As he grew older, he began to see life with clarity. How fragile happiness can be, how love can be both beautiful and painful, and how human beings are capable of great good and great harm. This maturity is reflected in his later plays, which combine tragedy, philosophy, and profound insight into human nature. For those learning English, this period of Shakespeare's life is a powerful lesson. It shows that growth comes from experience, and wisdom comes from observation, reflection, and the courage to explore deep truths. Shakespeare's words are not only beautiful, they are meaningful. They teach us about patience, understanding, empathy, and the complexities of the human heart. By studying them, we can improve our English skills while also learning lessons that guide our own lives. Even as he wrote these masterpieces, Shakespeare never stopped creating and inspiring. Every play, every character, every line reflected his curiosity about people and the world. He understood that life is full of contradictions, joy and sorrow, loyalty and betrayal, ambition and humility, and he brought these contrasts to the stage with unmatched brilliance. His works became a mirror, showing audiences their own humanity and encouraging them to think, feel, and grow. By the end of this period, William Shakespeare had become more than a playwright. He had become a teacher of life. Through his plays, he explored love, loss, ambition, forgiveness, and the essence of being human. He showed that even in the face of difficulty, creativity, reflection, and wisdom can illuminate the path forward. His later works were not just stories, they were lessons, timeless and universal, meant to guide and inspire every generation that followed. For us, Shakespeare's masterpieces of wisdom carry a message that goes beyond English learning. They remind us to observe life carefully, to reflect on our choices, and to seek understanding in our relationships. They show that true mastery is not only about talent, but about experience, empathy, and the courage to explore the deepest corners of the human heart. As Shakespeare grew older, he continued to write, perform, and innovate, leaving behind a legacy of wisdom and beauty. His later plays are proof that life, when fully experienced and deeply understood, can produce art that is eternal. And they remind us that no matter our age or circumstances, we can always grow, learn, and create something that inspires the world. William Shakespeare, once a small-town boy with curiosity and dreams, had now become a wise observer of life, a master of language, and a creator of timeless stories. His words teach, inspire, and endure, proving that true greatness comes not only from talent, but from the heart, the mind, and the courage to understand the human spirit. Return home and final years. After decades of triumph, creativity, and fame, William Shakespeare made a decision that surprised many. In 1613, he chose to retire from the stage. For years he had lived in London, writing, acting, and directing plays that captivated audiences across the city and beyond. He had experienced wealth, recognition, and influence, yet deep inside, he longed for something more. Home. Stratford-upon-Avon had been his birthplace, his childhood town, and the place that had nurtured his curiosity and love for stories. Now, he returned to the quiet streets, the familiar wooden houses, and the gentle river that had flowed past his home for decades. He returned to New Place, his grand house in Stratford, where he planned to spend his final years in peace. Life at New Place was simple compared to the bustling streets of London. Shakespeare would wake early in the morning, walk through his gardens, and watch the sunlight dance over the green fields. He would sit quietly by the fireplace reading books, thinking and reflecting on the extraordinary life he had lived. His mind, still sharp and full of imagination, wandered freely through the worlds he had created on stage and the lessons he had learned from life itself. Most of all, he cherished his family. His daughters, Susanna and Judith, were now grown, and he spent hours in conversation with them, sharing wisdom, laughter, and memories. He watched the children grow, encouraged their dreams, and enjoyed the warmth of family life, the simple joys that he had missed while pursuing his career in London. For Shakespeare, these moments were as precious as any ovation, any royal praise, or any published work. But even in retirement, Shakespeare's mind never stopped creating. Though he was no longer performing or writing for the stage as frequently, he still thought in stories, observed human behavior, and whispered lines of poetry to himself. Some say that in the quiet of the evening he would sit in his study, lost in thought, letting words flow like the river outside his window. His imagination, as vibrant as ever, remained a constant companion. Then, in 1616, the inevitable came. One day, after attending a dinner with friends, Shakespeare fell ill. Some believed it was a fever. Others suspected a disease brought on by the cold season. Whatever the cause, his health declined rapidly. Family, friends, and neighbors gathered around him, knowing that the man who had changed the world of literature was now leaving it behind. On April 23, 1616, at the age of 52, William Shakespeare breathed his last. The world had lost a genius, a poet, and a playwright whose words had touched countless lives. Yet, even in death, his legacy was secure. Unlike kings and nobles who built grand monuments and golden tombs, Shakespeare chose simplicity. His grave at Holy Trinity Church in Stratford was modest, marked not by opulence, but by his own words. He had written a warning in his epitaph, a poem to protect his final resting place. "Good friend, for Jesus' sake, forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he that moves my bones." Even in his final moments, Shakespeare's words were powerful, eternal, and filled with purpose. They were a testament to the life he had lived, a life devoted to language, creativity, and understanding the human heart. His simple grave became the resting place of a man whose words would never die. Though his body lay in Stratford, his spirit and imagination continued to travel far beyond the town. His plays were performed again and again, not only in England, but across the world. His poetry and prose were read in countless languages. His name, once whispered in the streets of Stratford, became synonymous with genius, creativity, and the power of words. For English learners and dreamers everywhere, Shakespeare's return to Stratford and his final years carries a powerful message. Success and fame may come and go, but what endures are the stories we tell, the words we leave behind, and the love and wisdom we share with others. Shakespeare's life teaches us that it is possible to balance ambition with peace, greatness with simplicity, and legacy with humility. Even today, over 400 years later, people walk past his grave at Holy Trinity Church, feeling inspired by the life of a boy from a small town who dared to dream beyond the ordinary. His words continue to educate, entertain, and motivate. They remind us that no matter where we start, no matter our circumstances, we have the ability to create something eternal through persistence, creativity, and belief in ourselves. Shakespeare's story is not only about plays, poetry, or fame, it is about life itself. It is about curiosity, observation, love, struggle, growth, and the courage to follow one's passion. From the quiet streets of Stratford to the stages of London, from poverty to royal recognition, from youth to wisdom, Shakespeare's journey shows that a life well lived leaves a mark that lasts forever. And so, while William Shakespeare rests in a simple grave, his words, wisdom, and imagination remain alive. They inspire millions around the world, guiding us in learning, creating, and dreaming. His final years in Stratford remind us that peace, family, and reflection are just as important as achievement and recognition. They show that even as life ends, the impact of our words and actions can continue to shape the world. William Shakespeare may have left this world in 1616, but his story, his lessons, and his dreams remain with us today, reminding every reader, learner, and dreamer that our words can be eternal if we dare to use them wisely. The legacy lives on. William Shakespeare may have left the world in 1616, but his story did not end with his death. In fact, it was only beginning. While his body rests in a quiet grave at Holy Trinity Church in Stratford-upon-Avon, his words continue to live, echoing through centuries, inspiring countless generations, and shaping the world in ways he could never have imagined. Shakespeare's genius was not only in writing stories, but in understanding human nature. Love, jealousy, ambition, betrayal, friendship, courage. These are the emotions that define us all. He captured them so perfectly in his plays and poetry that people from every generation, every culture, and every corner of the world can see themselves in his words. Romeo and Juliet still teach us the beauty and tragedy of love. Macbeth warns us of ambition's dangers. Hamlet explores the mysteries of life and human thought. These are not just stories, they are mirrors of our own hearts. His influence on the English language is enormous. Shakespeare invented new words, phrases, and expressions that are still used today. Break the ice, heart of gold, wild goose chase. These are just a few examples of phrases that came from his brilliant mind. Every time we speak or write in English, we are, in a way, connecting with Shakespeare. His words shaped the very language we use to express our thoughts, emotions, and dreams. The impact of his work on culture and literature cannot be overstated. His plays are performed in theaters across the globe, from London to New York, Tokyo to Paris, Mumbai to Sydney. They have been adapted into movies, television shows, and even modern musicals. Every performance, every adaptation keeps his spirit alive. People of all ages continue to read, study, and be inspired by his work. Shakespeare is not just part of history. He is part of the living, breathing world of storytelling. Even more remarkable is the timelessness of his messages. His works remind us that words have power, the power to teach, to move, to change, and to inspire. They outlast wealth, titles, and even the human body itself. Shakespeare proves that ideas, stories, and creativity can live far beyond a lifetime. He started as a small-town boy with curiosity, imagination, and a dream. He faced struggles, doubts, and criticism, yet his words outlived him. They continue to inspire writers, actors, learners, and dreamers even today. For those learning English, Shakespeare's legacy is especially motivating. His life shows that learning and using words is not just about communication, it is about expression, creativity, and influence. Through his stories, we can explore vocabulary, sentence structures, and emotions, all while being inspired by a man who dared to dream beyond his circumstances. His works teach us how powerful language can be, and they remind us that every word we choose has the potential to touch someone else's life. The legacy of Shakespeare also carries a universal lesson. Persistence, imagination, and belief in oneself can change the world. He had no wealth, no title, no extraordinary privilege. He was an ordinary boy from a modest family. Yet, through curiosity, hard work, and passion, he became one of the most celebrated writers in history. If a small-town boy could leave a mark that lasts for centuries, imagine what you could achieve with your dreams, words, and determination. Even today, over 400 years later, Shakespeare inspires creativity and courage. His plays are studied in schools, performed in theaters, translated into every language, and referenced in movies, music, and speeches. Writers, poets, actors, and leaders look to his work for wisdom and inspiration. He is a shining example of how one life, fueled by passion and dedication, can impact the entire world. And this is the message for you, my amazing friends. Your words matter. Your thoughts, stories, and ideas have the power to influence people, to inspire change, and to leave a mark that lasts. Shakespeare's life proves it. From a small boy in Stratford to the global stage, his journey teaches us that age, origin, or circumstance does not define your potential. What matters is your dedication, creativity, and courage to share your story. Shakespeare's legacy reminds us that learning English is more than just grammar or vocabulary. It is a tool to express yourself, to dream, and to inspire others. As you read his works, perform his plays, or use his phrases in conversation, remember that you are participating in a tradition that spans centuries. You are connecting with one of the greatest storytellers the world has ever known. Even now, his story whispers a powerful truth. Life is fleeting, but words are eternal. The boy from Stratford-upon-Avon faced challenges, doubts, and setbacks, yet he turned his curiosity and imagination into a legacy that would outlive him by centuries. Shakespeare proves that your creativity, your ideas, and your voice can make a difference long after you are gone. So, my friends, let this inspire you. Dream big, write, speak, and create with passion. Learn, practice, and share your English skills with courage and confidence. Just like Shakespeare, your words can touch hearts, change minds, and leave a legacy that lasts forever. William Shakespeare's body may rest in a simple grave, but his words, his stories, and his wisdom are alive in classrooms, theaters, libraries, and conversations around the world. He is proof that ideas are stronger than time and words can outlive the body. And today, his legacy is not only his, it belongs to you as well. You have the power to learn, grow, and create your own stories. You have the opportunity to inspire, to teach, and to leave your mark. Remember Shakespeare, a small-town boy who dreamed beyond the ordinary and changed the world forever. Your words, too, can do the same. For the audience, my amazing friends, as we reach the end of William Shakespeare's incredible journey, let's pause for a moment and think about something very important. Shakespeare was once an ordinary boy, just like you and me. he was born in a small town called Stratford-upon-Avon, into a family that had no wealth or extraordinary power. His father was a hard-working glove-maker, his mother a loving and caring woman, and he was just one of 8 children. There was nothing in his circumstances that suggested he would become the greatest writer in history. Yet what made Shakespeare extraordinary was not his family or his wealth. It was his dream, his passion, and his unstoppable curiosity. From a young age he loved stories, he observed people, he played with words, and he imagined worlds beyond the streets of his town. He didn't let difficulties, financial struggles, or the limitations of his environment stop him. He worked hard, learned constantly, and pursued his dreams relentlessly. Think about that for a moment. A boy from a quiet small town, without fame, without connections, and without money, transformed the world with his words and ideas. That is the power of dreams combined with effort. That is the power of imagination, courage, and belief in oneself. If Shakespeare could do it, why not you? You, my friends, have your own dreams. Maybe you want to write stories, act, speak confidently in English, travel, teach, or become someone who inspires others. Maybe your dream seems far away or impossible right now. You might feel small, ordinary, or like there are too many obstacles. But remember Shakespeare. He faced doubts, criticism, financial struggles, and even mysterious lost years where no one knew how he survived. And yet, he did not give up. He kept learning, observing, imagining, and creating. This is exactly why his story matters to us today. Learning English is not just about studying words or grammar. It is not just memorizing rules or translating sentences. English is a tool to express yourself, to share your thoughts, to tell your story, and to influence the world. Every word you learn, every sentence you practice, every story you read or write is a step toward using your own voice. Just like Shakespeare used words to change the world, you can use English to share your ideas, inspire others, and make a difference. Imagine this. When you read Shakespeare's words today, you are connecting with a boy who once walked streets like yours, who once felt curiosity, fear, and hope, just like you do. His creativity turned ordinary experiences into extraordinary stories. Your journey in English learning is similar. Every time you practice speaking, reading, listening, or writing, you are building the foundation of your own legacy. You are preparing to express yourself in ways that can inspire, inform, and empower others. Shakespeare's life teaches us 3 powerful lessons. 1. Dream big, even if you start small. He was a small-town boy, but he dared to imagine greatness. You can too. No matter where you come from, your dreams matter. 2. Work hard and never give up. He faced failures, criticism, and uncertainty, yet he persisted. Every effort you make in learning English, every step you take toward your goals, is shaping your future. 3. Use your words wisely. Words are powerful, they can inspire, teach, and change the world. Shakespeare's words live on centuries after his death. Your words, too, can have a lasting impact if you express yourself with courage and clarity. So, my friends, today I want you to believe in your potential. Your background, your current level in English, or any obstacles you face do not define your destiny. What defines your future is your passion, your effort, and your courage to dream. Just like Shakespeare, you can transform ordinary circumstances into extraordinary achievements. Learning English is a journey, but it is also a journey of empowerment. Every new word you learn, every sentence you practice, is like adding another tool to your kit. You are building the ability to connect with people, share ideas, and leave your mark on the world. Shakespeare teaches us that language is not just communication. It is creativity, influence, and freedom. Remember, greatness does not come from luck. It comes from curiosity, dedication, and the courage to keep going even when life is challenging. Shakespeare started as an ordinary boy, but through determination and love for words, he became extraordinary. You too have that potential within you. Your dreams are valid. Your voice matters. Your journey is unique and powerful. So, my friends, take action today. Keep learning, practicing, and using your English. Keep imagining, writing, speaking, and dreaming. Don't let fear, doubt, or criticism stop you. Remember that one step, one word, one effort at a time can lead to greatness. Just like Shakespeare, you can turn your passion into impact, your words into a legacy, and your dreams into reality. The world is waiting for your voice, your ideas, and your stories. Your journey starts now. Dream big, work hard, and never stop believing in yourself. One day, your name, your words, and your story could inspire people just as Shakespeare inspires us today. Your future is in your hands. Go ahead, create, speak, and shine. The next great storyteller could be you. And remember, your words have power. Use them, share them, and change the world. My amazing friends, now that you've heard the story of William Shakespeare, I want you to take a moment and think about your own dreams. Shakespeare was once an ordinary boy, just like you. He had no wealth, no fame, no special advantages, only curiosity, imagination, and determination. And look at the incredible legacy he created. If he could do it, why not you? Your dreams matter. Whether you want to write, speak, create, or lead, the first step is to believe in yourself. Don't wait for the perfect time or for someone to give you permission. Start today. Take one small action, one word, one idea, one effort at a time, and watch how it grows into something extraordinary. Your journey may have challenges, doubts, and struggles, but that is what will shape your strength and character. I want to hear about your dreams. Comment below and tell me what you hope to achieve, what you want to create, or the story you wish to share with the world. Let's inspire each other, support each other, and celebrate our journeys together. If this story motivated you, make sure to subscribe to Read and Learn English and hit the bell icon. We have many more inspiring stories that will improve your English, expand your imagination, and encourage you to reach for your dreams. Remember Shakespeare's timeless words. It is not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves. Your future is waiting, and the power to shape it is in your hands. Go forward, chase your dreams, and let your words change the world.